Hey everyone, I'm the Canadian Lad, aka your personal nerd, and today I bring to you part 2 of Deadpool and Wolverine full breakdown. If you've already watched part 1, you know that I've split the entire 2-hour movie into 3 segments, and in each segment I'll be breaking down 40 minutes of the movie. So in today's video, I'm gonna break down scene by scene and reveal hidden details and Easter eggs from the second 40 minutes of the movie. We're starting from this point and crushing right up to here. And don't worry, if you haven't watched part 1 yet, you can still watch this video and then catch up on part 1 later. I've crafted each video to stand on its own, so if you watch part 2 before watching part 1, you won't miss a bit. So without any further ado, let's dive into part 2 of our scene by scene breakdown of Deadpool and Wolverine. Chris Evans unveils himself as Johnny Storm after doing a superhero landing. But if you notice, until it's revealed to us that this is actually Johnny Storm and not Steve Rogers, Chris Evans delivered every dialogue in the same tone and voice as Steve Rogers. For instance, when he says, "I got this," it sounds exactly like Captain America and not Johnny. Or when he says to Deadpool and Wolverine, "Stay close," which is something a soldier might say. And it's a whole different thing that Deadpool takes it quite literally, but from the moment he says, "Flame on" and onwards, his dialogue delivery changes completely. Chris was more lively and more animated, something totally different from Steve Rogers. And this wasn't just a random shift, it's a clever move to misdirect the audience and make Johnny Storm's reveal even more jaw-dropping. So the next time you watch the movie, keep an eye out for this one. The more I watch this film, the more I'm impressed by this clever detail. Deadpool, Wolverine, and Johnny then get surrounded by a convoy. And one detail that I really like here is that even before we see Sabretooth, Wolverine actually senses it because he can smell Sabretooth's scent. And Wolverine in the comics can actually recognize people and objects by scent alone. And as he had previous encounters with Sabretooth, so he remembers his body scent and recognizes him instantly. Wolverine of course does it again later in the fight against the Deadpool Corps, but we will talk about it in part 3. Now the tank that Sabretooth drives is being pulled by multiple motorcycles and has an A as in Anarchy spray painted on top of an Avengers logo. We see Pyro driving Red Skull's car, but instead of the Hydra logo, it has an Iron Man logo embedded on the hood. Now as soon as Johnny engulfs his entire body in flames, his wreck burns out and we see the Fantastic Four suit underneath. He fires at Pyro, but Pyro, who can manipulate fire, literally sucks Johnny out of his own power source. Johnny crash lands on the ground and Sabretooth asks Wolverine for a fight. And it doesn't take long for him to deal with Sabretooth as he literally beheads him. Notice how Sabretooth tried to turn and look at Wolverine, but his head didn't move at all. Pyro then commands Toad to take care of them, and Toad activates his giant magnet controlled through this robotic arm that says Canadarm. Now as the magnet reels in Deadpool and Wolverine, notice Deadpool's gun that Wolverine sliced in half during their fight and the magazine also get pulled by it. Deadpool and Wolverine are then put in a cage and are being taken to Cassandra Nova's space. And here we see the Pyramid of Giza in the background and these void turkeys which are called Nervus. And we've seen both of these in the Loki series. But what's important here is that in the background in the distant sky, we can see a portal opening up and something gets tossed in the void. This means that even though the TVA has stopped pruning timelines, they're still offloading stuff or beings into the void. Now in the cage, Deadpool comes back to his senses and mutters God of Thunder. Now throughout the whole movie, Deadpool's gasps when he wakes up are always Thor related, implying that the TVA footage of him dying in Thor's arms has left a lasting impression on him. So every time he's knocked out or falls asleep, those haunting visions start to resurface. Deadpool tries to escape, but Johnny advises against it, saying don't bother, they're very thorough. And I like how they tied Deadpool and Wolverine together and made sure to put one rope between Wolverine's legs. Johnny then explains that they're in the void, a place where the TVA sends people that don't play nice with the rest of the multiverse. And he also reminisces about Reed Richards, who used to call this place a metaphysical junkyard. Now he said it in the past tense, implying a variant of Reed Richards was also here, but probably got gobbled up by Goliath. And that also explains why Cassandra's men have the fantastic car from the Fantastic Four. Whenever Reed and Johnny were pruned, they must have got pruned along with the car. Johnny then goes off on Cassandra Nova with a truly epic rant, describing her with a string of colorful insults. He says, and I quote, "Cassandra Nova, a megalomaniacal psychotic ass, a finger-licking, dead-inside, pixie-slapping, third-rate dime store nut milk. And I'll tell you what she can do. She can lick my goddamn cinnamon ring clean and kick rocks all the way to Bald Hill. In fact, I don't give a shit if she removes all my skin, pops me like some nightmarish blood balloon. If the last thing I do in this godforsaken gutter existence is light that box on fire, I still won't die happy. That's right, Wade. I won't be happy until I've urinated on our freshly barbecued corpse and husk the chart remains, while gurgling Juggernaut's juggin' nuts. Hearing this, Deadpool and Wolverine get a pretty good idea of the maniac they're about to meet, and the maniac that's in front of them. And notice at one point during Johnny's most vulgar monologue in the history of Hollywood, Hugh Jackman barely managed to keep a straight face, and they kept it in the movie. In fact, Ryan Reynolds had a tough time too, but his mask saved him from ruining more takes.
I still get, it's the only time in the movie I am fucking up a take laughing, except I'm thanking God I have a mask on, because you can't, I was deathly quiet about it, but I was giggling like an idiot under the mask as he delivered that. I would have wrecked everything if I weren't wearing that mask.
And one last detail about this monologue is that this was the tipping point that convinced Chris Evans to come back for the cameo.
Ryan, in under 10 minutes, wrote the end credit button and wrote one of the great dirty monologues in the history of cinema and sent it to Chris. And Chris was like, if that's in the movie, I'm in the movie.
Now, inside Cassandra's base, we see some familiar faces from previous X-Men movies, although now played by different actors. We see a variant of Russian, the Punisher villain, Azazel, Lady Deathstrike, Callisto, and Juggernaut played by Aaron Reed, who has also worked on Free Guy with Ryan Reynolds. And we see a variant of Psylocke, who was previously played by Olivia Munn, but now we have a different actress. Now, Cassandra, of course, has set up her base inside the corpse of Giant Man, aka Scott Lang. She says that she was sent to the Void even before she learned to walk. And we learned in the Loki series that the TVA only prunes you if you've done something you were not supposed to do. So what could possibly an infant do to receive such punishment? This just shows how seriously the TVA took her threat. They didn't want to risk her growing up in the real world at all. As soon as she was born, she was sent down here. In the comics, Cassandra is Professor Charles Xavier's twin sister. When Cassandra was still in the womb, Professor Xavier sensed Cassandra's evil presence and tried to kill her right in the womb using his psychic powers. And this led to their mother Sharon to have a miscarriage. The doctors thought Cassandra was stillborn, but she survived and grew up in the sewers, eventually crafting a new body for herself. Now, one detail that I noticed is that Emma Corrin, who plays Cassandra, always hides her thumbnails behind her index finger when interacting with Deadpool, Wolverine, and Johnny. Even when she gently caresses Johnny, the camera angle doesn't let the audience see her fingernails. This seems like a deliberate choice, so that when she demonstrates her power of fingering people, we as the audience see for the first time how weird her fingers and nails are. Now, Deadpool starts quoting Johnny word for word, and Johnny pretends as if he has never heard of those words. But after watching the movie so many times, I think I just caught Johnny giving himself away here. Notice when Deadpool tells Cassandra, "Oh, Johnny told us all about you," Wolverine says, "Maybe shut up now," but Johnny says, "Yeah, maybe don't," and this gives it away. If Johnny didn't know what Deadpool is gonna reveal here, he wouldn't have told Deadpool to stay quiet. This immediate reaction is likely how Cassandra figured out Deadpool is on the money here. Cassandra then zaps Johnny's skin, leaving his organs to splash crudely onto the ground while the soil greedily drink his blood. And Deadpool says, "Not my favorite Chris," and tells Wolverine you have no idea what he was doing to the budget. Cassandra then tells Deadpool, "You don't really strike me as a world-saving type." And this immediately moves a nerve in Deadpool, and even Cassandra felt it too. And this is the exact line that later inspires Deadpool to put himself on the line to save the multiverse. So if you think about it, it was Cassandra who helped Deadpool unlock parts of himself that would later help him defeat her. Cassandra says her brother can enter into other people's minds with a thought, but she has to get her hands dirty, quite literally. She jams her bizarre fingers into Deadpool's head and takes him on a memory trip to his breakup with Vanessa. She even tries to twist the memory, making Vanessa say, "You'll never f***ing matter." But Wade regains control of his mind and says she never said that. And Cassandra responds, "But I bet she thought it." Now I want you to think about something. Cassandra tried to manipulate Wade and Logan's past memories, especially the ones that still haunt them. But in both instances, she failed miserably. She tried to plant false memories in both of their heads, and both Wade and Logan saw right through it. This not only shows their mental strength and resilience, but also shows how Cassandra must have formed an army of weaker minds who fell victim to her manipulations. Because not everyone is as strong as Wade and Logan, and they must have succumbed to Cassandra and let her plant false memories memories in their minds. Now, Cassandra plans to feed Deadpool and Wolverine to Goliath, but they both manage to escape the compound using this jetpack. Now, few people believe that this could be a part of Ironmonger's suit from the first Iron Man movie, but if you take a look at it carefully, it looks nothing like it. In fact, it looks more like a part of a Sentinel or just an unfinished jetpack. Deadpool and Wolverine sit together at a diner and learn about each other. Deadpool tells them that in his world, Wolverine is a hero, and that Wade tried to join the Avengers but got rejected. Same with the X-Men. They exit the diner and start walking together, and there we see this old abandoned car. I went back to Loki season 1 to make sure if this is the car Mobius was driving, but the model doesn't match. And then it hit me that Ryan Reynolds is a huge fan of planes, trains, and automobiles. And I was right, this is the Chrysler LeBron from that classic. Now this is where they meet Dogpool and Nicepool for the first time. I like how Wade is just shocked to see a perfect version of himself in the suit, while Wolverine is just staring at him up and down. Nicepool cracks a controversial joke, and Wade responds with, "I don't think you're supposed to say that." And Nicepool retorts, "It's okay, I identify as a feminist," which had the entire theater roaring with laughter every time I watched it. Wade then asks Nicepool if he could have his gold-plated .50 caliber Desert Eagle pistol arrows, and Nicepool says, "Over my dead body." Wade then introduces Logan, saying, "This is Logan, he's usually shirtless, but he has let himself go since the divorce." And Nicepool explains he doesn't wear a mask because of his flawless looks. And now if you think about it, this entire scene is as meta as it can be. From Nicepool making a joke on Blake Lively's recent pregnancy, to Wade's jab at Hugh Jackman's divorce, this scene is essentially not between Deadpool or Wolverine, it's just Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman. Nicepool then offers his Honda Odyssey so that they can drive safely to the borders, and he has a constant smile on his face. Now Nicepool doesn't exist in the comics. He's an original creation just for this movie. And come to think of it, this is Ryan's take on an overly polite, exaggerated Canadian Deadpool, true to our reputation for being overly nice. And I absolutely love this scene where Wade quite literally threatens Nicepool that he might kill him just to steal his dog and guns. Notice Nicepool got so scared hearing this threat that he looked at Wolverine for help, who swoops in to save the day and returns his dog. Deadpool and Wolverine drive through the void, and we see Thanos' Q-ship in the background. In fact, a lot of them, some more damaged than the others. And this is not the first time we see Thanos Easter eggs in the void though. In Loki season 1, we had a Thanos copter Easter egg as well. And notice Logan is driving the Honda Odyssey, and later Elektra will be behind the steering wheel. And in Deadpool 1 and 2, we've always seen Depender behind the wheels, with Wade always on the passenger seat. And it's kind of shocking that even after 3 full movies, we have never seen Deadpool driving a 4-wheeler. A 2-wheeler, yes, but never a 4-wheeler. And thanks to Chow for sending me this detail. Deadpool then accidentally reveals that he doesn't know for sure whether the TVA can fix Wolverine's world, and this sets off Logan like a rocket. Deadpool tries to justify himself, saying he made an educated wish, because he needs Wolverine to save his friends and family. Logan then unleashes a verbal assault on Deadpool, which is the longest monologue Hugh Jackman ever had as Wolverine. A full 50 seconds of pure venom. He says, "You know what, you're a f***ing joke. No wonder the Avengers didn't take you, or the X-Men, and they'll take f***ing anyone. I mean, you are a ridiculous, immature, half-wit moron. And I've never met a sadder, more attention-starved, jabbering little prick in my entire life." And that says a lot, because I've been alive for more than 200 f***ing years. And I'll tell you, that bald chick was right about one thing: you will never save the world. You couldn't even save a relationship with a goddamn stripper. Motherfucker, I wish I could say you would die alone, but it's one of God's best jokes that you can't die, except that's on all of us. And this is the longest anyone has ever managed to silence Deadpool without resorting to physical combat. And when Logan said that Cassandra was right, that Deadpool can never save the world, really strikes a nerve with Deadpool again. This epic assault on Deadpool erupts another violent fight, but this time inside the Honda Odyssey. So let me break down this fight, which has a ton of amazing hidden details. So here goes. Wolverine aims for Deadpool's head, but he ducks, causing Wolverine's claws to slice right through the doorframe, bending it out of shape. Deadpool retaliates with a powerful kick, sending Wolverine through the windshield like a ragdoll. But Wolverine gets back up and rebounds by slamming his shoulder into the front bumper, almost like a rugby tackle. And he did it with so much force that it deployed the airbags. He then lunges towards Deadpool with his claws out. He kept stabbing Deadpool with his claws. And notice the blood splatters from Wolverine's claws onto the car's roof. Kind kinda explains why Wolverine rarely needs to clean his claws after a fight. The adamantium seems to act like a high-end stainless steel, making the blood of his enemies slide right off. And this is a great attention to detail there. Deadpool then jumps on Wolverine and gets on top of him, but Wolverine has stabbed him so much, Deadpool's own blood starts dripping onto Wolverine's face. And this makes Wolverine laugh out loud, even though he was in excruciating pain as well. He then throws Deadpool out of the car, smashing through the sunroof, and Deadpool lands back against the doorframe. Now notice the blood that Deadpool splattered on the doorframe here. It remains there until the very end, where we see them entering Cassandra's lair. And this is such a good continuity detail, because most of the blood on the car was added through CGI. And keep in mind, there was a writer's strike during the shooting of this film, so filming had to stop indefinitely, and they were about to film all the cameos. So the gap between filming this scene and this one was more than 3 months. And despite that, the attention to detail and continuity is absolutely impressive. Deadpool then wraps the rear seatbelt around Wolverine's neck, climbs out through the rear windshield, comes back in through the shattered sunroof, attempting to strangle Wolverine. But Wolverine fights back by slicing through the seatbelt with his claws. Now we know the claws actually don't exist, right? Hugh Jackman is such a good actor, he just makes them appear as if they do. So every time we see the claws slicing through something or the claws in action, it's all CGI and purely Hugh Jackman's incredible acting skills. So notice what the VFX team did here. When Wolverine cuts through the seatbelt, for a split second we can briefly see the polyester fibers coming out of the belt. And this is what happens when the VFX artists get enough time to work on a project. Wolverine then aims for Deadpool's head again, but Deadpool raises both his hands to block him. Though he could briefly stop Wolverine from reaching his head, but the claws do go through his hands. But Wolverine doesn't back down. He still goes for Deadpool's head and shoves his claws still impaled in Deadpool's hands. Deadpool then grabs his baby knife and stabs Wolverine in his left thigh. The camera then pans towards the coexist bumper sticker as their brawl continues off screen. And this is how the fight finally ends. Now if you're wondering who won this fight, well, it's Wolverine, because if you look at how Deadpool's whole body is wrapped around with seat belts, it kinda tells us who won. Wolverine wrapped his body using the front seat belts and used the rear belt to wrap his head, almost making him look like a mummy. And after doing that, he probably exhausted himself and just laid there. But don't think Deadpool went down without a fight either, because he literally shredded the sleeves of Wolverine's suit, with the left shoulder pad lying on the floor. And here comes my favorite detail. Notice the Polaroid photo that Deadpool carries with himself is also on the floor. And the next time we see this photo is at the end of the film, when Wolverine pulls this same photo from his suit pocket, showing it to Wade, telling him why he must survive and why Wolverine should make the sacrifice play. Because Wade has his friends and family to go back to, but Logan has no one. That means when Wolverine woke up after this intense battle, he found this photo lying on the floor and chose to keep it safe. There is no way Deadpool gave it to him. And remember, Deadpool woke up after him. So the fact that Logan, despite fighting Deadpool every step of the way, kept this photo safe in his back pocket goes to show that he cared about Wade nonetheless. He must have thought, I couldn't save my own family, so why deprive someone from his? And this is just a great detail, weaving an unspoken story into the film's narrative. Now inside this hideout, we see a couple more Easter eggs that dedicated Marvel fans cannot miss. But I'm still gonna state the obvious, since in this breakdown, I'm leaving no stones unturned. The first one, of course, is this giant Scarlet Witch statue. Now doesn't this look a bit misplaced? I mean, yes, she's the daughter of Magneto in the comics, but that's not established yet in the MCU. And we can theorize all we want whether Scarlet Witch survived the end of Multiverse of Madness, but I think Marvel is playing the long game here. I think Scarlet Witch might team up with Doctor Doom some way or the other, like we've seen in the comics, and that's how we're gonna see her return in the MCU. So this was a deliberate move to get the fans to think about her again. Marvel had this statue at their disposal since Multiverse of Madness, so I'm pretty sure it was Kevin Feige's idea to incorporate it in this movie, planting a significant Easter egg for Avengers Doomsday. Now this is just my theory, so let's see what happens. Next, we see this Hulk bat from Thor Ragnarok. Now let's focus on the cameos. Jennifer Garner comes back as Elektra, Wesley Snipes as Blade, Channing Tatum as Gambit, and Daphne Keane as X-23 aka Laura. Now the entire world believes that things aren't going too well between Ryan Reynolds and Wesley Snipes, so there's no way Ryan would want to bring him back, right? But guess what? Snipes recently spilled the beans at a Comic-Con interview.
It started with a text from Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, wow.
And I saw a text and it says, you know, I want to talk to you. And I was like, I hate this guy. No, this is a joke. We've been playing this for like 2 decades. We've actually liked each other the whole time.
I like how Blade tries to continue the real-life joke by saying, "I don't like you." And Deadpool responds, "You never did." I actually watched the first Blade movie at 0.25x speed already and found some amazing hidden details. So if you have the time, then please watch that too. Deadpool tries to identify Elektra as Wonder Woman, but Elektra tells him who she is before he could finish. And of course, the constant banter between Deadpool and Gambit was just pure gold.
I'm about to make a name for myself here. Who is your dialect coach? The Minions?
Gambit tells Deadpool that some Resistance members, including the Punisher, Quicksilver, and Daredevil, tried to take on Cassandra, but none of them ever returned. Hearing Daredevil's name, Deadpool immediately says sorry to Elektra, and Elektra just nods, "It's okay." This is another brutal joke at the expense of a real-life split between Jennifer Garner and Ben Affleck, who met on the set of Daredevil in 2003 but divorced in 2018. Deadpool then asks if Magneto is around, hoping to borrow his helmet to shield against Cassandra's powers. But Blade says Cassandra killed him and melted his helmet, so the only option they have now is Juggernaut's helmet, which could potentially withstand and prevent Cassandra from using her psychic powers. And this makes sense, because in the comics, Charles Xavier has a stepbrother from his mother's side, called Kane Marco, aka Juggernaut, and his helmet protects him from psionic attacks. In other words, keeps Charles out of his head. So it's essentially Magneto's helmet but bigger. Deadpool looks to Laura for the final approval, and she responds with a fiery "let's f***ing go." And if you notice here, Laura now wears a belt that has the X logo on it. A sweet little nod to show that she has totally accepted herself as an X-Men. Logan and Laura then have a personal conversation of their own, where Logan confesses how the X-Men in his universe died. He says one day he was off on his own in a bar getting drunk, while the humans came and hunted down and killed every mutant. And since that day, he started wearing this yellow and blue suit, since this is the only reminder of who they were. And it also reminds Logan of his own perceived failure. Now, Logan never tells us exactly who came for mutant hunting that day, so it leaves the door wide open for discussion. It could either be Friends of Humanity or the Sentinels. Now, Laura tries to inspire Logan, stressing that they can't defeat Cassandra without him. But Logan says it's not what he signed up for. Now, if you remember in the movie Logan initially never really wanted to help Laura, but then he rose to the occasion and became the hero. And that's what Laura reiterates here. She isn't unfamiliar with the Logan that doesn't want to help at first, but eventually does what's right.
Hey, I never asked for this. All right, Charles never asked for this. Caliban never asked for this. And they are 6 feet under the ground. I don't know what Charles put in your head, but I am not whatever it is you think I am, okay?
You got the wrong guy.
You were always the wrong guy. Till you weren't.
Meanwhile, we learn that Pyro has been working with Mr. Paradox all along, and he makes a deal to take down Cassandra. I like how Pyro uses his fire powers to warm up his food before eating. Cut to the next morning, where Deadpool and team drive towards Cassandra's lair, and as they drive through the void, we spot 2 more Easter eggs. First, we see this golden Asgardian palace, which could be the same palace that was pruned because of Sylvie in Loki Season 1, Episode 4. And as for this object, I can't quite make out what this could be, so let me know what you think about this. Then we see a crashed Guardians of the Galaxy ship, aka the Milano. Now, the gatekeeper of Cassandra's base looks at the Honda Odyssey that's approaching them, and this character is Frederick Dukes, aka Blob in the comics. Now, Blade gears up to launch an RPG at the base, and Deadpool asks where did he get it. Elektra answers that's Punisher's AT-4, and AT-4 is essentially a rocket launcher, which tells me the Punisher that died in the void before Deadpool and Wolverine arrived here must be Ray Stevenson's, because among all the Punisher iterations we've got so far, Ray Stevenson's Punisher is the only one who came close to actually using a rocket launcher. And it can be John Bernthal, because he's gonna appear in the Daredevil Born Again series. That's why Deadpool says, which Punisher though? There's been like 5 of them. And Blade delivers the most badass dialogue in the movie here. There has only been one Blade, and there only ever gonna be one Blade. Hearing this, Deadpool immediately breaks the fourth wall, which could be either of two. 1, this Blade doesn't know that a new Blade movie is gonna come out, or 2, this Blade is right on the money. Either way, I love this joke, but I hope with all my heart that Marvel finds its way back and does make the new Blade movie. Now, as soon as as the RPG hits the target, the team storms the base. And notice how the Honda Odyssey is blazing with fire. Does it remind you of anything? Well, Ryan and the writers were actually thinking to include Ghost Rider in the movie until their plans changed. And I can see exactly how they would have used Ghost Rider's character in the movie. Then they all step out of the car and Laura puts on the glasses she picked up at the gas station in Logan. I like how Laura has followed in her father's footsteps, keeping things safe just like he did. Wolverine comes out of the trunk, which to me is the real entrance of Wolverine in the film. This whole sequence elevated by the music, slow-mo effects, and of course all these badass characters teaming up together was nothing short of epic. And that wraps up the second 40 minutes of the movie. But as I promised, I'm gonna include 2 details from your comments in part 1, so here they are. At the end of the Ashes music video from Deadpool 2, Deadpool jokes, "God, I should have asked NSYNC."
So beat it, Spider-Man.
God, I should have asked NSYNC.
And in the Latin American dub version, Deadpool and Johnny Storm share the same voice actor called Pepitono Macias. So when Johnny died because of Cassandra, Deadpool says to the audience, "Now you won't be confused by the voices anymore," and that's so meta and funny. Just goes to show that even the dubbed versions can have their own fun moments and it still fits within the character of Deadpool. The more I watch this movie, the more I appreciate its perfection. I wouldn't change a thing in the script or the visuals, though I might have liked to see more of Logan's flashbacks. But overall, the first 80 minutes of the movie are simply fantastic. Now stay tuned for part 3, where I'll delve into some real hidden details and Easter eggs, because that one covers the showdown with the Deadpool Corps and the final battle. If you'd ask me which part is my personal favorite, I would say part 3. So please grab the subscribe button if you haven't already, and turn notifications on to catch it as soon as I drop it next week. And please give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, it helps me immensely. Till then, I'm Gordon Reynolds, and I'll see you lads in the next one.
The proposal.